Good morning, everybody out there on YouTube. This is Rick Thomas from Obsolete Video Services. Today I thought I'd do another vintage video repair, but basically I'm going to answer some questions. I've had several emails about this, including universities, archives. I've had museums. I've had everybody under the sun ask me this question, and I've had a lot of emails about it. So today I'm going to tackle that question since I have two of these decks sitting on the table now that I just want to use as examples to explain this. I've been getting people in the industry asking me, you do EIAJ reel-to-reel video transfers. What do I prefer as far as the best machines to use? I'm getting a lot of people asking me this question, what is the best reel-to-reel video machine to use? Well, since I've been doing this for years and worked with every video format there is, I will give you the answer. This has to do with quality, electronics design, and hardware flexibility, okay? I will give you the best answer possible from what my experience has been in the past 30 years of using these things. So if you're going to get into trying to get your hands on a reel-to-reel, an EIAJ reel-to-reel video machine, and you want to get a good one that produces good quality and it's easier to fix, and you know you're going to get good playback when you're using it, kind of pay attention here, okay? Because this is really important. Today I have two machines. This is a Panasonic machine to the right, and this is a Sony machine to the left. Okay, what are the differences? These are reel-to-reel video machines, right? You would think there is no difference, but there actually is a very big difference when it comes to manufacturers. First of all, in the late 60s and early 70s, Sony started making their machines. I really cannot stand Sony's reel-to-reel EIAJs. They are made so cheap, it's not even funny. The reel-to-reels that Sony made, the Sony AV 3600s, 3650s, 8600, 8650s, they are made very cheap. I mean, the design is just crappy. The skew tensions are crappy. I just didn't think the Sony reel-to-reel machines were all that great. Here's an example of a CV 2600, which is a skip field, but it's exactly the same hardware setup as the AV 3600. As you can see, everything is very cheap on this thing. Okay, they used pot metal capstan roller assemblies here. Rollers. Biggest problem is they had this tension arm, which was a real pain in the ass. These bands would wear out. You'd have to readjust this. You'd have to fix it, put a new band on it. And these things never did record really good. The tracking was always horrendous on these machines. So, I mean, it's just because they were made very cheap. These machines were not really a great design. And this is the Sony models. Sony AV 8600, 3600, 3650. It was a complete offshoot of the same model on almost every one of those. Sony made very, very cheap machines. They used primitive electronic boards in the beginning, and then they switched over to the green, better design boards on them. That's the only thing they really upgraded on these Sony models was the circuit boards later on. But the hardware setup, I just thought was just horrendous. I mean, they had great clutch wheels and stuff like that, plastic with rubber tires on them. Those weren't bad, but the rest of it, it's just a real crappy-ass design. The skews are always a very big problem. The motors are a big problem. And then on the bottom of these things, you've got, you got very little. I mean, they didn't put a whole hell of a lot into these things. There's a motor with the belt across it. The electronics is pretty primitive with a servo board and a modulation and an audio board. But the biggest problem is they were just made very cheaply. And on these Sony models, for some reason, people would always mess with the guides, and it's just, you never really got a great playback on these. So, like I said, guys, the Sony AV models or AV series, 3600, 3650, 8650, 8600, they weren't really a great design. The 8650 wasn't really that bad. They put a little bit more into it, but as far as some regular Sony models, they weren't really all that great. Okay, now we come to the Panasonic machines. The Panasonic machines, in my opinion, were the best EIAJ reel-to-reel machines ever made. The NV3130s and the NV3160s were the best machines, in my opinion. They used heavier hardware. The hardware was more solid, better design. They had what they call these brake tension skews and stopping rubber tires that would stop the brake tensions and everything. More of a user-friendly precision lock when you stop the units and play the units, and would have the correct tension with a skew and a knob. They were just more, how you say it, intolerances for better recording and better usability. The Panasonics, they just put more work into the machines. Better weight, better motors. They were using brass fittings on different things. The capstan rollers were solid. The belts were great. The control arms and the audio control heads, the heads were better designs. The guides, the rollers were better. It was just so much of a better machine. So to answer the question out there, Panasonic versus Sony Eiaj reel-to-reel, Panasonic wins it hands down. I've used tons of these machines, and Panasonic always seems to be the front runner on every machine I've ever used. On top of it, a Sony machine would use a head brush on their video heads, and it would be applied to the side of the connections for the heads on the video head. 4 brushes, which was a crappy design because they'd get very, very dirty all the time. They didn't hold up very well. The heads on these things would get screwed up a lot. The brushes on these things were just crap. Where the Panasonic would have a head brush that pushes down on a disc to make contact with the 2 heads on each of the head bar. And it just was more user-friendly, better quality, easier to clean. Just Panasonic was the best machine, hands down. So if you're looking at getting into doing reel-to-reel Eiaj, or maybe you want to step into this business, Panasonic models are the only ones you should be seeking out. Hope you enjoyed this video.